Morning, guys. We are still looking for the rapture. You guys probably get tired of hearing about that. But it's going to happen. Just waiting for it to happen. Timeline's already been put out there. So, if the math is right, anytime between now and mid-2027 or 2028, the rapture should happen. We're watching some crazy stuff go on, guys. Watching some crazy stuff go on. Donald Trump was in the Far East recently, talking with the leader of China, the leader of South Korea. He was trying to get a meeting with the leader of North Korea. He's out there greasing palms. That's what he's doing. He's greasing palms. That's right. He's greasing the palms for world domination. That's what he's doing, I guarantee you. So, South Korea gave him some jewels. I don't know if they were the real ones or if I heard one person say, "Oh, it's their reproductions," but I don't think so. I think they're the real deal. They gave him a crown, and they gave him a set of jewels that, someone of nobility might wear. A collar, a jewel, what looked to be a bit of a Maltese cross design, a pin, or a brooch, as a lady would wear, right? I don't know, a few different things. But anyway, back in 2024, Israel gave Donald Trump a crown. They gave him a crown, and they gave him a menorah, and I believe that those were real gold. And they quoted these different passages from the Old Testament, and they called Donald Trump the Prince of Peace. Okay, they called Donald Trump the Prince of Peace. We all know who the real Prince of Peace is. That's Jesus. There's only one Prince of Peace, and that's Jesus. That's it. So, we have a lot of things that say that Donald Trump could be the son of perdition. We also have a lot of things that say, well, he probably isn't. Okay, well, we don't have a lot, but we do have things that say that he probably isn't. But, the thing is that I think it's going to be kind of like an up in the air thing until the rapture happens. Once the rapture happens, then all of the smoke and mirrors will be gone. All the smoke and mirrors will be gone, and the reality will come to light on everything. Not just here and there, not just little, glimpses here and glimpses there of what is reality. You know what I mean? But everything will come to light after the rapture. Now, what else? Well, we saw that with the crown and the jewels. The thing is that Donald Trump walked away from China. I think he got rid of the tariffs on China. He says we came away with an incredible deal. You know how he talks. I mean, he's a business guy. He's very pompous and so on. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, Donald Trump can't be the son of perdition, or he's not going to be the son of perdition, because the man of lawlessness and the son of perdition, he can't be because he likes women too much and blah blah blah. But that's not really what the Bible says. I mean, he sees women like objects. He doesn't see them like a normal man would. A normal husband would. He treats them like a ring or a watch or something like that. So it could be a man who regards women in that fashion. That could be it. But people constantly hear Christians saying, "Well, why are you so interested in this or that?" Well, just because I find it interesting. It's fun to speculate. Oh, who is it going to be? Was it Mr. Green with the pipe wrench in the library or what? I mean, if anybody knows about the game Clue, you would immediately, zero in on that. But it's kind of just something fun. I mean, being a Christian, there are some fun aspects to it, and one of them is speculating things that we're not technically supposed to know before we leave. you know it just is what it is. Everybody's has curiosity. A normal person is curious. If you're not normal, you're probably not curious. So yesterday was a nice windy day. I loved it. I had on I was outside a good bit. Last night, of course, I was giving candy to kids, and I had I had my Christian stuff out there, and I see that as a way to evangelize to people, and I had some commentary which was really good feedback. It's a good way to evangelize to people. Wear a crucifix, and I have my ring on, my Christian ring, and another thing that I do before trick-or-treating even starts is I bless all the candy. It can't hurt. I ask the Holy Spirit to come upon the candy and to work in each and every child's life that receives it, that they will be brought to Jesus. Yep, certainly do. One time I was in New York City, and I had blessed some food, and I was taking food in a backpack to people that lived on the street, homeless people out on the street, and they were out there begging. Some of them are begging for money for drugs, Some of them are begging for money for alcohol and whatnot. You know, Regardless of what their main intention is, everybody eats and everybody gets hungry, right? So, was taking some non-perishable food stuff in my pack, and excuse me, I'm burping here because I had breakfast, which was eggs and toast, if anybody wants to know. So yeah, so I was going out visiting homeless people, and I went up to this guy who was a homeless guy begging on 5th Avenue, okay? And I'm talking about Manhattan here, And as soon as I approached him, I had been, praying a good bit. I always prayed a good bit before I went out because it's New York City and you never know what kind of craziness you're gonna walk into, even on Fifth Avenue. But there was this person, and I was walking up to him, had food in my hands, and I was gonna try to offer it to him, and he started screaming. He was screaming. He knew that he knew because he had demons in him. He knew that that food was blessed. He knew it. So I said, I'm just trying to give you some food. I don't want no food. I don't want no food. Get away from me. I don't want that. Blah 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 blah. It's something to that effect, you know. And then he turned around and he ran away from me down the street. He just kept running. I never saw him stop. He just kept running like an angry mob was after him or something. Yep. He felt the power of God in that sandwich or whatever it was I was trying to give him. Prepackaged stuff, you would get at 7-Eleven or someplace like that. And yeah, he just went ballistic. And then I encountered a homeless person I was coming up on. He was sitting on the steps of a church, and I was going to give him some food. And I know that he was demon possessed because he when he spoke to me, he said some stuff that only I would know. Only I would know it. And when someone is demon possessed, they will know things that nobody else knows. So I knew that he was demon possessed. He didn't go ballistic about food or anything. He just politely declined. So, you will encounter that sort of thing. Got a few minutes left here. A couple minutes. So, things are happening in the world. Not only with Trump and the crown and the jewels and the meeting of different leaders from around the world and whatnot. I mean, you don't see any other leaders running around the world meeting with other leaders. There's something to this. Okay, this is not some random thing. You never see Chuck over in the Far East. What does he have to prove, right, or say? And actually, about Chuck, I heard that William basically took over. Anyway, and William supposedly has thoughts and ideas to change the way the monarchy works in England. So think about that. And I saw recently this morning a fellow talking about a fellow in England, London I believe it was talking about how someone got ambushed and beat up. I don't know the outcome. I didn't really watch the whole video because I got distracted and needed to do something. But he was basically telling everybody, hey, we need to all get together and do something about this because nobody's going to do something about it but us. But then he was like, but I'm not talking about getting violent. Here's the thing. Guys, I'm going to educate you and I want you to listen because I have been in some stuff, okay? I have been in street fights, gang fights. I have been in some fights, okay? Weapons and everything. So when I was a young guy, I was in martial arts. I was, it was, I was involved with some guys that were good guys, but there were also guys that were bad guys. And, it's kind of like little rascals with their gang, right? In our case, we were just a bunch of, good guys, but there were a bunch of other guys that were not good. And, anyway, we got tired of those other guys messing with us, and we said, okay, meet us. This is just one of several different instances in the past. I said, okay, we'll meet here. No weapons. Of course, they brought weapons. But we ended up whooping them. And then I got into a fight the following Monday with their leader. And I beat the crap out of him. I hit him so hard in the face that his gums turned black and blue. He was, some people were surprised he didn't lose his teeth. But you cannot deal with a situation peacefully. It doesn't work. It doesn't. I told you guys before in a video or two, it could have been 100 videos back, I don't know when, but I told you, my mother was always trying to keep me to be a good boy, don't get into trouble, don't get into fights, blah blah blah, and I ended up getting picked on, and I wasn't fighting back. That doesn't work. You just get picked on more. It's the same thing with these other people here in London. If those Muslims are starting crap, finish them. Finish them. You need to organize like a militia, and you need to finish them. Okay? That's what you got to do. You got to finish them. You cannot deal with those people piecemeal, because they look at kindness and they look at somebody just trying to get along as being weak. You can't get along with those people. They don't even belong in your country anyway, so just stomp them out. You got it? That's what you got to do. You got to stomp them out. You have to organize. You have to decide when and where you're going to take care of it, and then you just do it. You get it done. Anybody tries to interfere, take them out too. Stomp them out too. You got it? That's the way you got to deal with it. If the police are trying to protect the people that are trying to take over your country, they are enemy combatants. They are a problem. You need to handle them too. You need to stomp them out too. That's the way it has to happen. That's the way it has to happen. When the British came for the guns in the colony, when the colony had had enough of King George, what happened? They got their asses stomped. That's the way you got to do it. You can't just piecemeal these people. You got to take care of business, and you got to send them on their way. That's the way you got to do it. So any of my friends in Ireland and in England and Scotland and Wales, any of you guys over there that are watching, say that it's easy for you to say because you're there in the United States across the ocean. Let me tell you something, fellas. If I were there, I would be a ringleader. I would be handling business. And some of you guys that are friends of mine who are ex-SAS and ex-Royal Marine Commando and ex-TA and so forth that are over there right now, you need to be ringleaders. You need to handle the business. Wishing it away is not going to happen. You just take them out. You need to go out and stomp them into the ground and be done with it. If you give them a good stomping and they still don't want to leave, they just want to, fight more, then you're just going to have to handle them completely proper. Might want to just do that from the get-go. Because they're not going to give up. They're not going to stop. You just got to do what you got to do, guys. That's just the way it is. And a lot of my Christian viewers out there that are listening to this right now, I don't know what kind of background you have. I don't know what kind of life you led before you were a Christian. But I was a rough dude. Rough. I was always on the side of good, but I was always a rough dude, and I always handled my own business. I never called the cops. I never called the cops to handle my business. I took care of myself. I took care of my family's business and my business too. Anybody had an issue, they called me up, I'm there. Showed up with a shotgun, or I showed up with a club, or I showed up with a bat, or I showed up with some knives, just in case. Nowadays I show up with bear spray, probably a club. You know, you just take some stuff just in case. When I was in high school, I was told I was going to be jumped by about 6 or 8 guys after the school was out. And I rode the bus, and I got off at their stop. I got off where they were going to get off. Not at my stop, which was further down the road, but at their stop. I got off of the bus at their stop because I was going to handle it. And guess what I took with me? I took a set of steel nunchaku. Steel. Made out of a pipe that you used to pump up a pneumatic jack. Or anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Piston jack. I cut it in half. Put the dog chain, choke collar chain in between the two pieces. Welded the pins so they couldn't come out. Had them in my notebook. I was ready to rock. I was ready to break some heads. And that's the way you got to get. You don't let people run over you. You handle business. Because if you don't, it will never stop. That's the way you do it. There is no peaceful integration. There's none of that. Get out. That's the way you got to treat them. Not supposed to be here. Came here illegally. You're trying to bring your ways to our country. You're trying to stomp out what is our heritage. You're trying to stomp it out and institute your own. You're starting to try to blow your horns at the beginning of the day or the middle of the day or whatever. Your calls to prayer and blah, blah, blah. That crap has to go. And let me tell you what. Before you start saying, oh, you know, you better take that lumber out of your own eye. When you're talking about the stick in my eye, before you start talking about any of that nonsense about Dearborn, Michigan, or, you know, Little Mogadishu over there in Minnesota, before you start talking about that, before you start talking smack about the U.S., I'm going to tell you that it's going to come to a point. That stuff's going to stop. Here, it's going to stop. And if Trump doesn't do something about it, and you can feel free to send this video to Donald Trump if you like, I don't care. But if Trump doesn't do something about Dearborn, Michigan and other places where all of this Islamic crap is going on, the people will organize and handle it themselves. Because we're not going to put up with it. You shouldn't put up with it. We shouldn't put up with it. Nobody should put up with it. Go back to your litter boxes, Muslim. Go back. Because nobody wants you in our countries. Get out. Get out while you can. That is what I'm telling you. Get out while you can. Alright. Enough ranting and raving. I'll come back at you with another video to talk about this shirt. I will see you there.